My son Tom and his partner Aiden are college seniors in New York. Or they were, until a few days ago. They graduated, I guess. No, they did. They Zoomed classes from his childhood bedroom. They wrote papers in the den. They did the work. It's just the graduation part seems a little anticlimactic. There's no ceremony, no parties, no Chardonnay and cheese puffs. They won't get to drunkenly thank a professor for opening them up to the sensuality of language. They won't get to wake up the next morning mortified that they used the expression sensuality of language. What they will get, whether they like it or not, is this baked Alaska that Tony is making. A baked Alaska is essentially an ice cream pie smothered in meringue that you then bake, and the meringue prevents the ice cream from melting. So you pull it out of the oven and you bring it to the table hot, and your guests have no idea there's a secret inside ice cream. And so it's a big wow moment, sort of like when your son graduates from college. We're getting them pots and pans, like nice ones, like Tom Phelan. Lest anyone here think we're just giving these guys a baked Alaska and a pat on the back. There's going to be a statement gift. This is a big accomplishment, and we want to recognize that. They are done with school for the time being, and COVID notwithstanding, they're going to get jobs and apartments and pets and bank accounts, the big things. And we've talked about these big things a lot during quarantine, and so I know that they both want to teach. They hope to stay in Harlem, they plan to get a cat, and they will be doing their banking at Citibank. I know these things, but it's the little things I wonder about, the everyday things, the things that I used to know. Tom hasn't lived with us in about 4 years, and in that time, that little fucker has learned to like eggs. Early in quarantine, I walk into the kitchen and he's making an omelet, and I say, "Oh, is that for Aiden?" And he said, "No, it's for me." "You hate eggs," I said. "No, I don't," he says. "Now I love them." And he walked out of the kitchen as though loving eggs was his idea. Eggs were my idea. He's been a vegetarian since he was 7. And I used to beg him to eat eggs for the protein, and he refused. And now he suddenly likes eggs. And the other day, he and Aiden were talking about how they would need a couch for their new apartment. And Tom turned to me and he said, "Hey, Mom, do you think we should get one at IKEA?" And I wanted to say to him, "Don't even get me started on IKEA." Because when you were little, we used to take you to IKEA every weekend because we were broke and we were tired. And so we would stick you in free babysitting, and we would go sit on those couches and stare off into space and wonder if we were ever going to get a good night's sleep, because you refused to sleep through the night in your own bed. You'd start there, and you would swear up and down that you were going to stay there, but invariably you would come into our bed and you would sleep great, and we wouldn't sleep because you were a kicker. And I used to think you were never going to sleep in your own bed. I read books on it. I joined online chat lines about it, and then one day you just did it. I don't even remember when. It happened without any fanfare. I woke up one morning and you weren't there, and that's how it happens, You don't even realize things are changing until they've already changed. One day you're teaching your kid to ride a bike without realizing you're teaching them to leave you. "Don't leave me, Tom, please don't leave me," is what I wanted to say. But what I did say was a couch from IKEA. Sounds like a great idea. When Tom was 7, we were supposed to go to New York to spend the holidays with Tony's family. And the morning of our trip, Tony woke up with the stomach flu. And after much discussion, it was decided that I would fly with the kids by myself and he would join us later. So we're mid-flight and my stomach starts to rumble. And I think, am I just hungry or do I have the stomach flu? And I panic and I turn to Tom, who's playing with his Game Boy, and I said, "Honey, I'm worried I'm sick. What should I do? I'm scared." And he said, "I don't know. You're the parent. You're the parent. That's why you don't beg your kid to never leave, to always love you, to answer your text within 30 seconds, because you're the parent. And if you do your job right, they will leave you. They will always love you. But it may take them 24 hours to respond to your, hey honey, there's a sale on shirts at Macy's, what size are you text. If you do your job right, they will become individuals, separate and apart from you. They'll start to keep whole parts of their lives separate from you. They'll start to share things with friends and partners and people you don't know. You know, do you remember when you knew all their friends? Do you remember the play dates you set up and sat through, and now suddenly your grown son has a friend named Michelle who just got into the University of Chicago. And when you say, oh, wow, who's Michelle and what's she going to study? He looks at you like, why do you care? And you want to grab him by the collar and say, do you remember the day you were sick and we played all the games in the house? We sat on the floor and played Trouble and Uno and Husker Du and Chutes and Ladders. I played Chutes and Ladders, Tom, the most boring game on the planet. And I didn't complain, so the least you can do is tell me who the fuck Michelle is and what the fuck she's studying at University of Chicago. But you don't say that. Because you're the parent. Now here's the superpower that we parents have to help us get through this period of time when our children are becoming people who don't answer our texts. Yes, we're the parent, but we're also the kid. We're someone's kid. So while we may not have had texts to ignore while we were growing up, we sure as hell pulled away, put up boundaries, learned to become people who could make it through the night in our own beds. And we have secrets of our own. I never graduated from college, and my parents still don't know. I'm 6 science credits shy of a degree. Here's what happened. I was going to take them the summer after my senior year, I really was, but I met a guy in a bar, and the idea of riding around Madison, Wisconsin on his moped sounded a lot more interesting than botany. So I walked the stage in my cap and gown, but I did not graduate from the college my parents generously paid for so as not to burden me with tuition or student loans. And they, threw me a big party. They got me pots and pans, and they have no idea I didn't graduate, and that has bothered me for the last 37 years. Tony thinks they already know. I mean, being flaky was sort of, in my character then, so doing something irresponsible like that wouldn't exactly be a shocker, and maybe that's why I didn't tell them. I never made a dime as a writer till I was in my mid-30s. I had a series of low-paying, dead-end jobs while I was trying to be an artist, and my parents made things worse by being so supportive. I would ask to borrow money, and they would loan it. I would do some performance art piece in a dingy warehouse on 12th Avenue, and they would fly in from out of town, sit in the front row, take me out to dinner afterwards, and tell me how much they loved it. The most critical thing my mom ever said to me was, oh, I loved this one. But sometimes I do wonder if you'll ever do a story with, a mother and a father and a plot. I mean, how could I tell them that I wasn't worthy of their goodwill? So I didn't. I started to share things sparingly. I needed room to grow and fail and scheme and ride mopeds. Would they understand if I told them that the day of that first botany class that summer, a guy I met in the bar the night before, an art student, came over to my apartment and gave me a stalk of broccoli like it was a bouquet of flowers, and that made my heart swoon? And would they understand why then, when he asked me to go on a picnic, I had to say yes. I had to skip botany. I didn't want to be a girl who didn't graduate, but I was afraid of my future, and so avoiding it with a cute guy and a moped seemed liberating. Would they understand that logic? No. So I didn't tell them. I knew they wanted me to be stable and secure and happy, and I also knew not consciously, but in every flaky and irresponsible thing I did for the next 10 years, that security and stability were not in the cards for me for quite a while. I needed artists and picnics. I needed cockroach-infested apartments in Washington Heights. I needed theater companies and performance art. I needed the struggle in order to figure out who I was. I needed that more than botany. A few years ago, Tony called the University of Wisconsin and tried to get me my degree as a Valentine's Day gift. He got some dean on the phone, and he said to her, you know, doesn't her work on Grey's Anatomy qualify as science? Couldn't you just give her her degree? They couldn't. But look what I got. I got a guy who loves me enough to make that call. I've got 2 children that I like. I have a career that I find maddening but challenging. And I'm not happy. But I'm happy sometimes. And sometimes I'm mad and sad. And I am grateful when I remind myself to be. So I think by not graduating from college, I got the life I was meant to have. So I'm going to give Tom his space. I am going to offer opinions only when asked. I am going to love him unconditionally from afar. And if he gets scared in the middle of the night, I will let that little fucker sleep and kick my shins because I'm the parent. And he'll eventually come back, you know? He'll eventually call me just to chat, just to tell me about his friend Michelle, who just got into the University of Chicago. I mean, right? Eventually we have to call our parents and tell them we didn't graduate from college, right? Oh my God, we're doing this? We're doing this.
Hello?
Hi, Mom.
Hello?
Is Dad there?
Yeah.
So,
Jim? Here we are.
okay. So I'm doing this piece about Tom graduating from college. And I'm calling you to tell you a secret I've had for 37 years, which is that
37.
I've had for 37 years, which is that I never got my degree. I never graduated from college.
Joan,
Yeah?
do you know I thought that?
Why?
Because you were fiddling around, saying, oh yes, it never came in the mail.
So you kind of knew?
Remember you had some sort of fails or something?
Yeah.
A lot of fails.
And then you made them up.
Right.
You're a good storyteller, Joan, because you made them up, and I said, oh, that's great. And then, of course, you walked across the stage, and you had your empty diploma. But in my heart of hearts, I thought, I don't know how she made those up.
Okay, well, here's what I want to say to you guys. I feel like I have thought long and hard for many years about how I could pay you back the money. But my dad's laughing. But wait. But what I really feel like I have already paid you back is that I am paying it forward. You guys were so supportive and such great parents, and you have been such a good example, and I am trying to give my children the same freedom to be themselves.
Well, what a wonderful thing to say.
And you know, it hasn't had any impact on your life, has it?
Well, no, I'm just fine. I guess Hollywood is the only place where you don't need a college degree.
Oh, believe me, I've given her a lot of shit about it, so.
So,
And maybe when you decide to go for your PhD, it'll be a little problem.
all right, you guys. Well, thanks for being such good sports about this call. Are you disappointed in me?
Did you think we would be shocked?
Well, are you disappointed?
No, well, absolutely not.
I'm rather impressed at how you managed to navigate all of it.
Okay. All right. I love you guys. Goodbye.
I love you too. Okay.
Bye-bye, Joe.
Bye-bye, Tony.
Bye.
Joe.
I did it. That feels somehow. I don't know how it feels. It feels like a weight is off me. It somehow feels like growth. Wow. Okay. So here's the thing, that if I wrote it in a script, you wouldn't believe it. You would tell me it was too much or too matchy-matchy, or I didn't need it. The piece was fine without it. So Tom graduated, right? But he still has 2 classes he needs to take to get his degree. And he plans to take them this summer. Or at least that's what he tells us. So,